Good evening. Anybody there? It's a wintry second day of winter, I think, in here in Southern Oregon. Um, let's see. Okay, so let's see. Let me know in the chat how the sound is. Is it okay? Should be good, but we have only one person here. Oh my gosh. There'll be more, but also regardless of who is here live, there's going to be more people watching it later. Um, it's a little bit pixelated. I think my light's not very good. Let me turn on another light real quick. Okay, I think it's a little better, but okay. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start then. Because I said I would start at 5. So I really wanted to do this video because um, is it too? How's the light? Um, Whoever's there, can you put in the chat how the sound is and the light? Should be fine. But anyway, um, let's see. Okay, so I wanted to do this video because throughout the years, I hear a lot of people, and certainly a lot of ministers will say this, that you got to listen to God, and God is that still small voice inside. And they reference that quote in the Bible. And I've wondered, I know that that's not true. I know that God doesn't talk to us in our head in a still small voice. That's the darkness. It's always mimicking and imitating God. And that's how so much confusion happens. God, Roy Masters was 100% correct, that God doesn't speak to us like that. He shows us through intuition. So it's like a flash of understanding. It's like you just see. And then the imposter will tend to put it in words in our head, but then you just recognize that, let it go. And that's happening a lot. But the more calm and lack of irritability you let that go, the more you become like that, the more you just have pure insights without all the chatter as much, or sometimes not at all, in the head, trying to rob its glory and trying to like you know how you can just see what's right and wrong without any words in your head, and then the intellect will put words in your head, and it's trying to get you to think that it gave you that insight when it was the light and God that gave you that insight. So I've wondered throughout the years, how can the Bible have gotten that so wrong? Like the still small voice inside. How could it have gotten it? How has it gotten it so wrong? And so I actually looked up where that came from, and it came from Kings. I'm going to read the quote right now. I have it here on my phone, and it comes from Kings 19:12, and it's talking about Elijah. Elijah is the one that heard the voice of the Lord, and he didn't hear it inside his head. Um, Elijah, I'll read it here. Um, then he said, "Go out." This is in the Kings. Then he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord." And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. And it also calls it a delicate whispering voice. So Also, I'm going to read another understand another Elijah travels. See, the backdrop is Elijah, who is a prophet. You guys probably know he's a famous prophet, and he opposed Ahab, the king of that area. I think it was Israel, but I think it was more than Israel. I'm not sure. I should know, but um, and Baal was the false god of Ahab and their people. So he opposed them, and he was a true prophet. And Elijah travels for 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Horeb, which where Moses had received the Ten Commandments. So that's where Moses met the voice of God in the mountain. So that's the same mountain where Elijah is the only person described in the Bible as returning to Horeb after Moses and his generation had left Horeb several centuries before. He seeks shelter in the cave. Elijah is told to go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. And again, there there comes a mighty wind, an earthquake, and then fire. But Yahweh, God, is not in any of these, choosing to come instead as a still small voice which bids Elijah to go forth again, this time to Damascus, and anoint Hazael as king of Aram, Jehu as king of Israel, and Elijah as the old prophet's successor. So, and then you guys probably know Elijah is transfigured right into heaven. A chariot with a fiery chariot and horses come and take him up to heaven. And so clearly, that still small voice, if you read it in Kings, is not the way a lot of people are using it, and it's a deception, and it's a root cause of um, almost all confusion in the head, in people's souls, because if you believe that small voice inside, you're going to believing the liar. Because I believe what happened was like in the Garden of Eden, Satan tricked Adam and Eve, right? And it was all meant to be, but he tricked them, and they listened to his voice. Well, he went after Eve because she was the weaker vessel spiritually, and then he spoke to her, and then she spoke to him, to Adam, and then he followed rather than correcting her. And it was all, God knew it was going to happen. They wouldn't be able to resist. Satan was way too crafty of a creature, and it had appealed to their own pride, little bit of pride that they had, because we have to have a choice for good or evil, otherwise we're just like the animals. So so after that time, then they fell, right, and they got booted out of the garden. So then they must have become possessed with some kind of spirit of evil inside, or even if they're not, they have the voice in their head from eating from the knowledge of good and evil, because then they disobeyed God. So anyway, it's happening all the time now to us. We hear the voice in our head. It plays good cop, bad cop. It's the same thing as in the garden. But I mean, of course, now we're already born into it. It's not like we're Adam and Eve. Like I've heard, some people say, like, um, we're already born into it, so we're not responsible like Adam. Um, we're already born in sin. We're born in captivity. So um, we it's I lost my train of thought. Let's see, let's have some tea. Hey, where is everybody? Oh, if anybody's listening, you can call in 626-217-3749, and I'll put you on speakerphone. It comes through fairly good, actually. So It's a really, really big deception. A lot of ministers, especially, say they tell you to listen to God's voice inside. I mean, I even heard Alan Master say that repeatedly, and he of all people should know better. Being Roy Master's son, and Roy Master's clearly helped us to see that God doesn't talk to you with a voice in your head. That's again, it's the deceiver. Um, Elijah was hearing, as described, God's. I think it sounds like God didn't want to, like, boom real loud, so it was a small. It was they described it as that still small voice, but it's not. It never describes it as a voice in his head. It's a voice outside. He heard it, and just like with Moses, he was on the same mountain as Moses. So how people have have transformed that into a still small voice in the head is insane. It's crazy. It's totally wrong. It's not scriptural. And any minister who tells you that God talks to you and listen to God, and yeah, Alan Masters said that in the last Sunday meeting again, and I'm picking on him because that was my church, and I love Roy, and Roy's in heaven, and it's being misrepresented. Roy's church is being taken off course. Alan repeatedly says that. Um, Listen to the voice, or God spoke to you, or your conscience spoke to you. Uh, I heard my God in my head, or similar. Um, it's that is like really, really, very, very deceiving, very opposite of what his father said. A lot of ministers do it, um, because they listen to it themselves, and it's if you really are aware, like, of the voice in your head, you'll realize. I mean, that it's not good, even if it sounds good. But we tend to get in the habit of talking to ourselves in the head, or talking, or like repeating something that we said in our head, like to someone that sounded good, and the darkness will bring that up to our head, to our memory, and then if we go along with it in seemingly like a positive way, then when the darkness, which we may not recognize at the time, well, in this instance we will, because then it'll say like evil things in our head. And then it's because, but if you open the door by using it and talking to yourself, or going along with thoughts or fantasies, then when it turns evil, then it grips us, and it could cause doubt and fear, because we went along with it in a seemingly innocuous way, but it's not. It's all really dangerous. And I'm really so glad, so happy that we have Roy Master's meditation exercise. Thank God. I think there's quite a few people here locally, near the foundation now, that don't practice it accurately, because, like I was saying about Alan, he's not, because he's talking about the voice, listening to the, listening, hearing the voice of God, which is a deception. But like I said, people who repeat that is because they're not really connected to the silent intuition, which is not. It also, it's there for you, but it's not going to give you what to say in advance, and that's very common for our dark side to give us what we're going to say beforehand in our mind. And if we just don't go along with that, then good things can come out. And it's like this dueling thing in our mind, happens a lot, where it's a lot of the times trying to preempt what you're going to say, by it will give it to you in your head to say it before you say it. And that's so common. And of course, in academia, universities, and politics, they go along with that, and they actually write a script, and they will write down what they're going to say. Then they'll present it. And that is the opposite of what Jesus said. He said, don't think about what you're going to say, to the magistrate or whoever. He's not just meaning, one place if you're going to be persecuted or whatever. He's saying don't plan, let the Holy Spirit speak through you. Don't think about what you're going to eat, what you're going to say, what you're going, everything. Like he's saying right there, be objective, be in the moment, don't go along with the thoughts. So when people and leaders say that still small voice, they don't understand. They need to go to Kings in Scripture in the Old Testament and read that was a small voice that Elijah heard outside clearly. He didn't hear it in his head. So it's been twisted into hearing God in a still small voice in our head, and that's the devil. Sorry, it just is. It's not God. So um, if you've been deceived in that way, just be informed now. It's all screwed up to teach that, to say that, and for any leader to be telling you that God's talking to you in your head. They're it's the blind leading the blind. Um, I've had an instance, and I'm sure this has happened to other people, where the darkness will talk to you in your mind, and it will come to be true. So it's doing, again, it's a tricky little, uh, sinister demon that we all, almost everybody has. Like once I was working at Jack in the Box, and it said to me, that ice cream machine is going to break down. I was looking at the shake machine. And then next thing you know, one of the workers was trying to do a milkshake and it stopped. ah, but it said it to me in my head. What am I, a prophet? No, that was it was trying to trick me to think, like, to lead me in all other things in my head. And I don't think at the time I really recognized it for what it was, but I thought it was really peculiar. But living by the light and intuition is much, much simpler, and it's like there's not much at all going on in the head. Whatever is going on in the head, you're just watching, your soul's just watching, because um, intuition is like heavenly telepathy. It's just there. It's not like something you're thinking about, you're not calling up. If you watch your mind, fantasy, and thoughts, you can be anything in your head, and the darkness will give it to you. Like you can be a hero, you can do much better than what you actually did in your head when you play it back. The devil, the darkness is going to give us that anytime, and we can call it up. But intuition is not like that. It doesn't do that to you. It doesn't give you fantasy. It doesn't give you any of that stuff. It just simply comes out when you need it, or it'll give you an idea, you know, a great idea, or it'll show you where you did wrong without words in your head. And it's awesome. There's nothing more valuable in this world than that conscience. And I'm just so glad I returned to it after running from it for a number of years. So anyway, I guess I'm going to end up here. Let's see, 18 minutes. Yeah, I don't see anybody here, which is fine. I mean, it's Sunday night too, and probably people are doing things, and um, there's nobody calling in. And I guess that's all I really. Let me check on YouTube here if it's showing something different as far as people here. Um, but I really didn't have much else to say other than that. It's a big deal. That still small voice. It's they call it, a whisper, because God. It sounded like God didn't want to, scare him, or he was already kind of like, you know, he was running for his life. I mean, and he was told to flee, because they were going to kill him like they killed so many other prophets. So it's understandable. So many other prophets. God just did that. Small voice. Wasn't a voice in the head. Don't believe those voices in the head. That little undercurrent is always like whispering things to you, and it's trying to show you like it's good things too, like it's going to be your leader and like it's the light, you know. It's like that undercurrent, that subconscious, that's the darkness. Yeah, I mean, because God should just shows us without words, and it's really really wonderful to live that way. All right, well, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good Christmas and good forever.